is how you can make Cartethyia the strongest DPS in Wuthering Waves.
Alright, so first off, what even is Aero Erosion, or what does it do? It's like Spectre Frazzle. It does damage to the enemy over time, and the more Aero Erosion stacks that an enemy has on them, the more damage the stacks will do, but you also lose stack. What is the maximum amount of Aero Erosion stacks? The maximum amount of Aero Erosion stacks in the game right now is 3. Why is Aero Rover so important? Well, that is because you can increase the max amount of Aero Erosion stacks with his outro, which increases the limit by 3, so we will be at 6 Erosion stacks.
Alright, first off, I'll just start by simplifying her kit. Basic attack, 4-hit combo that does arrow damage. Her fourth basic attack applies 1 stack of arrow erosion onto the hit enemy, and she summons her divinity sword. Heavy attack, she consumes stamina to do arrow damage and summons her discord sword. She also summons this black hole which pulls the enemies towards it. So crowd control, this damage is considered as basic attack damage. Mid-air attack, consumes stamina to do a plunging attack, dealing arrow damage. You can do a basic attack after landing for basic attack stage 2, and yeah, continue the combo. Her mid-air attack removes all of her swords, and based on the numbers of swords and types of swords, you will give Fleurdelys her other form different buffs. Dodge counter, as always, you dodge, attack, deal arrow damage. Skill, she attacks the enemy and launches them into air, and then you can do a basic attack to plunge them down. She deals arrow damage and inflicts 2 stacks of arrow erosion onto the hit enemy. The damage is considered as basic attack damage, and yup, since this is a mid-air attack, it gives her other form the sword buffs. Her skill also summons her virtue sword. Ultimate, her HP is reduced to 50% of her max HP, and she transforms into Fleurdelys, which basically replaces her whole kit. You can use this in mid-air. Her basic attack, mid-air attacks, and skill instantly make the arrow erosion stacks explode and do damage, but you do lose a stack of arrow erosion on each hit. She also enters manifest for 12 seconds, which is where she uses her sword buffs. Don't worry, you don't need to count. There's a small bar under her Forte bar, which counts for you. You can go back to her normal form by pressing the ultimate button again. If her Forte bar is not maxed, she will attack the enemy with a basic attack and transform back. It also pauses the timer for manifest. As you can see, the Forte timer has stopped, so if you change your mind, or if you want to transform back to Cartethyia to apply arrow erosion stacks, then yeah, it's fine, since you can always press her ultimate button again and transform to her ultimate form, and of course the timer will continue. When her Forte is maxed, her ultimate gets enhanced. Her ultimate will glow too, and when you press it, she loses all of her Forte stacks, restores 50% of her HP, and does a ton of arrow damage. It has a big AoE, and it also removes all of the erosion stacks on hit enemy, and for each stack removed, the damage to the enemy is amplified by 20%, up to 5 stacks, so 100%, and yup, this can be cast in mid-air. Forte, so she has 2 different Forte bars in her different forms. For Cartethyia, she has 3 swords on her Forte: Sword of Discord, Sword of Divinity, and Sword of Virtue. So what buffs does her sword give her other form? Let's start with Heart of Virtue, for of course the Virtue Sword. Fourth basic attack will freeze the enemy, and she gets increased interruption resistance. Mandate of Divinity for the Divinity Sword. Arrow erosion damage is amplified by 50%, and the arrow erosion attack will happen every 1.5 seconds instead of 3 seconds. Power of Discord for the Discord Sword. When you use basic attack 5, mid-air attack stage 2, our second skill in her ultimate, she will apply the highest erosion stack from one enemy to all of the nearby enemies. How do you summon her 3 swords? She can only have one of each sword on field for 20 seconds. You can summon her divinity sword with her basic attack stage 4, discord sword with her heavy attack and her intro, of course, her virtue sword, of course, with her skill. How do you use her swords, or how do you get a buff? You can use her swords by doing a mid-air attack, so jump, attack, and the swords will disappear on field. Her Forte will start glowing, and it will have this arrow swirl behind it. You want to do this before transforming, and then you will get the buffs in her ultimate based on the number of swords and the types of swords. Alright, let's get to her second form. So all of the multipliers for her Fleurdelys mode is right here, as you can see. Bam bam. And then her whole kit is, yeah, here. Since she replaces all of Cartethia's kit, it's a basic attack, 5-hit combo that does arrow damage, heavy attack, dash forward and deal arrow damage, enhanced heavy attack, so you do a heavy attack and then a basic attack right after for her enhanced heavy attack, and then a basic attack right after for her jump attack. Mid-air attack, a 3-hit combo that does arrow damage. You can also hold her attack button to do stage 3 of her mid-air attack, and you can do a basic attack right after to do stage 3 of her basic attacks. So faster basic attack stage 5, but if you use her skill in mid-air, then it resets her basic attack stage. Dodge counter, as always, you dodge, attack, deal arrow damage, but this puts her on her 4th basic attack. Skill, her skill has 2 charges. The first one pulls the enemy and does arrow damage, and then you can press her skill again. For the second one, summons a big sword that pulls the enemy and does more damage. Keep in mind that if you don't press her second skill button on time, or if you swap off her, then it goes on cooldown, and yup, this can be cast in mid-air. How do you get Forte stacks? You can get Forte stacks through all of her ultimate attacks when they hit the enemy. How do you apply arrow erosion? You can apply arrow erosion only through her normal form. So basic attack stage 4 for 1 stack, her skill for 2 stacks, and of course her intro for the 2 stacks. stacks. She also uses up Aero Erosion stacks in her ultimate and makes him do damage instantly. So how do you use up her Erosion stacks? Basic attack stage 5 uses 1 stack. Her second skill uses 2 stacks. Her mid-air attack 2 uses 1 stack. Her ultimate uses all of them, and then it does 20% more damage for every single Aero Erosion stack consumed, up to 5 times, so yep, 100%. Intro, it depends on her form. So for Cartethyia, her normal form, she attacks the enemy, does arrow damage, and applies 2 stacks of Aero Erosion on the hit enemy. She summons the Discord Sword too, and you can do a basic attack right after. For basic attack stage 2, as for Fleurdelys, she attacks the enemy, does arrow damage, and then restores 40 stacks. You can do a basic attack right after for basic attack stage 2. Outro, arrow damage dealt to enemies by characters in your team other than Cartethyia who have negative status on them is amplified by 17.5% for 20 seconds.
So how do you activate a character's intro or outro? Well, if you look down here, each character has another bar called the conservator bar. You don't share it. Everyone gets their own conservator bar, and the value stays the same. When you change characters, you can fill up the conservator bar by hitting enemies with different attacks. So each attack gives you a different amount of conservator energy, which you can always see down here in the skill details. So yeah, ultimate gives 20, skill 15. You can always check it down here. And once you fill up the conservator bar all the way, all of your characters on the right will glow. And once you switch your character, the character who's leaving the field will activate their outro, and the character entering the field will activate their intro.
Inherent skill number 1. The healing received by all of your characters other than Cartethyia is increased by 20%, and the resistance to interruption is increased too. And Rover gets 25 40 stacks when you use his ultimate. Inherent skill number 2. Enemies with 1 to 3 stacks of Aero Erosion take 30% more damage from Cartethyia and Fleurdelys. Enemies with more than 3 stacks get 10% more damage for every Aero Erosion stack. So yeah, you need Rover for this to get more than 3 stacks, and with 6 stacks you'll be at 60%, so OP. What does her damage scale off of? Her damage scales off of her HP, so the more HP that you have, the better. And most of her attacks are considered as basic attack damage, so the more basic attack damage rolls on your echoes, the better. What is so special about Fleurdelys? Well, other than her getting her own ideal animations, she can walk on water, which will drain your stamina, and she can also walk in midair. When you're in a high place, make sure to press the walk key, which is Alt on PC. But during quests and if you use her utilities, she changes back to her small form. What are her swap windows? So attacks with long animations. So for Cartethyia, her basic attack stage 4, so basic attack 4 and then you swap. Her skill, so skill then swap, but make sure to do a mid-air attack, so jump, attack to activate the sword buffs. As for Fleurdelys, her second enhanced skill, so first skill and then second skill and then swap off. Next her enhanced heavy attack, so heavy attack, basic attack, swap. Can we simplify her kit even more? Well, so basically your main goal with Cartethyia is to apply Aero Erosion stacks and get all of the 40 swords, which you can activate by doing a mid-air attack, so jump, attack, and then this will give Fleurdelys all of the buffs. As for Fleurdelys, your main goal is to press her ultimate to transform and then do as much damage and fill her 40 as fast as possible for her enhanced ultimate. So yep, press ultimate again when it glows. If you're confused right now, then don't worry, you will understand her a lot better once we get to her rotations. Alright, so when it comes to her skill priority, her 40 is the most important one, since all of Fleurdelys' kit is basically right here, so all of the multipliers, so you need to max this. Her ultimate is important too, and then we have her basic attacks, her skill, and you can leave her intro at 5 or 6, since it can get expensive with the weekly boss mats. Let's move on to her weapons. So when it comes to weapons, her signature is of course her best slot weapon, since she scales with HP, and this is the only 5-star sword that gives HP. So if you're pulling this, then you're mainly pulling this for Cartethyia, nobody else. The defense ignore and the 20% damage amp if the enemy has a stack of Aero Erosion on them is perfect, so you're the best weapon for her. Her second best option is Camellya's signature weapon. This weapon is mainly good since most of Cartethyia's attack is basic attack damage, and the crit rate here will make building her a lot easier. Next we have the good old standard 5-star weapon. It's pretty close to Camellya's weapon in terms of damage. The energy region and the crit rate is good. Next we have Brant's weapon. This gives you basic attack damage bonus and 77% energy region, which she doesn't really need. Chun-Li's sword does basically the same damage as Brant's sword. The 48% crit damage is awesome though. And if you don't have any of those, then just give her a 3-star Guardian Sword, because it gives you HP and it can be crafted too. Pretty cheap. This is a comparison between all of her weapons damage. To be honest, if I can't get her signature, then I would just give her the standard 5-star sword and call it a day. When it comes to her echoes, the new echo set is the best for her. So yeah, have fun reforming everything. Or if you watch my pre-farm video, then you should have a lot of them pre-farmed before release. The old Aero Erosion set is not that bad either, and you can always give it to Ciaccona. So when it comes to the forecast, it's still the sword. You farm it from the same place, but it drops between 2 sets now, so it's a bit harder to farm unless you use your modifiers to change the main stat. And yup, the second question mark was Cartethyia. When it comes to the main echo stats, so she's the first character who prefers 4-4-1-1-1 at its 0, but 4-3-3-1-1-1 can work too. Between the two, 4, 4, 1, 1, 1 is easier to farm though. I mean, farming the 3 cost is just a pain, especially since there's a bigger pool of main stats with every single element. So I'll just go with 4, 4, 1, 1, 1. But if you still want 4, 3, 3, 1, 1, 1, then on the 4 cost, you want crit damage or crit rate. On the 3 cost, double arrow or arrow plus HP works too. The 1 cost are of course double HP. As for 4, 4, 1, 1, 1, the first 4 cost will be a sword echo, and then the second one will be the new Kelpie. So on the 4 cost, you want crit damage or crit rate, depending on your weapon, and the 1 cost or HP. When it comes to the substats, you want 120% ER, crits, crit damage and crit rate, HP and HP percent, basic attack, and ultimate damage can be good too. So yep, she doesn't need any attack. When it comes to recommended stats, you want 35,000 HP. HP is the most important stat. Crit rate 70%, crit damage to 50%, ER 120%, and 30% plus basic attack damage. When it comes to her teams, her best teammate is of course Ciaccona. She applies Aero Erosion, has good damage and good buffs too. She's basically made for Cartethyia. And if you have these two on your team, then you really want Aero Rover as your healer, since they can raise their Aero Erosion cap from 3 to 6. And the swords buffs aero damage too. And then we have Cartethyia here, giving him more 40 stacks. So yeah, these two characters were made for Cartethyia. I wouldn't really recommend the rejuvenating glow set on Rover, since Cartethyia doesn't need any attack. Instead, just give them the new arrow set or Sierra Gale. So basically Cartethyia and Rover, the new Windward set, and then Ciaccona will get the old Ghost of Vulcan set. If you don't have Ciaccona, then you can use Sanhua because of her basic attack damage amp, or Alto because of his arrow damage amp. As for quick swap, any character works with long animations like Changli, the usual, Changliao, Carlotta, and many of the others. As for the healers, any work, but to be honest, Aero Rover is not that good without Ciaccona. I mean, they don't have all of their sequences, or of course the sword at max, so yeah. Verena and the Shorekeeper are just better, but make sure to use the Bellborn Echo as your forecast instead of the Fallacy of No Return, since Cartethyia doesn't really benefit from attack. When it comes to her sequences, well, she has some of the best sequences in the game. They're all just OP. Her S1 is good for Ramping Waste. It gives her a new buff called Zeal. So every time she defeats an enemy with Aero Erosion, she raises the Aero Erosion stack on all nearby enemies, equal to the highest among them, and then Zeal is removed after 1 second. Also, for every 30-40 stacks that she gets, her crit damage is increased by 25% for 15 seconds. So 4 times, which means 100%. This lasts for 15 seconds or until she uses her ultimate. And when you get a new stack, it won't reset the timer. S2. So this basically means that you won't need Rover as much anymore. I mean, you can use Rover and then you'll get 9 stacks, but yeah. So after you use her ultimate, she increases the max Aero Erosion stacks by 3, and then her next attack applies 3 stacks of Aero Erosion onto the hit enemies. That's not all. This also triggers the Aero Erosion stacks instantly once without losing any stacks, but that's not all. The damage multipliers of her basic attack, heavy attack, dodge counter, and intro skill are increased by 50%, and the damage multiplier of her mid-air attacks is increased by 200%. And for every single sword that she recalls during her mid-air attack, she reduces the cooldown of her skill by 1 second. S3, you won't need Ciaccona as much anymore, since her ultimate, basic attack, mid-air attack, enhanced heavy attack, and second skill will now apply 2 stacks of Aero Erosion onto the hit enemy, and the damage multiplier of Blade of Howling Squad is increased by 100%. S4, after any of the characters on your team applies their negative status, they all gain a 20% attribute damage bonus for 20 seconds. S5, it's quality of life, so if she's about to die, then she'll gain a shield equal to 20% of Cartethia's max HP for 10 seconds. You can only use this once every 10 minutes, and when you transform, she'll only use 25% of her max HP instead of 50%. S6, after you use her enhanced ultimate, she raises the Aero Erosion stacks onto the hit enemies to the max, and her enhanced ultimate no longer removes Aero Erosion stacks. Also, within 30 seconds of using her intro or her ultimate, if any character on your team applies Aero Erosion onto an enemy that has max Aero Erosion stacks, so like Ciaccona with her ultimate, which just keeps on applying Aero Erosion stacks, this will be OP, since the extra stack will make the Aero Erosion immediately trigger, and enemies take 40% more damage from Fleurdelys. So instead of S1, I'll just get her weapon, or Ciaccona. When it comes to her rotations, we first start with her intro. For her first sword, and then basic attack 2, 3, and 4 for her second sword. Skill for the last sword, basic attack to plunge down and use her swords. You can then use her ultimate, and since you use all of the 3 swords, you'll get all of her buffs. A skill, and then hold the mid-air attack button to do her mid-air attack 3. Skill again, basic attack 3, 4, and 5, and then we have to use her enhanced heavy attack. So heavy attack and basic attack. Finally, we can now use her ultimate and then swap off her. So yeah, pretty easy. If you have Ciaccona or her S3, then you can do mid-air attack 1 and 2. Instead of holding her attack button, button in mid-air after you transform and use her skill, but if the enemy has low HP and you know that you can kill it, then you don't need to do this since it just extends her rotation. And if you don't have Ciaccona to apply Erosion stacks, then before you fill up the big Fleurdelys Wuthering bar to the max, switch to small Cartethyia, so ultimate to switch back to her small form, basic attack 2, 3, 4, skill, and then switch back to big Cartethyia to do more damage with her enhanced ultimate. As for the Echo, use it anytime you want after transforming. So she Worth Pulling, well, I mean she is the Sentinel's resonator, like Jinhsi, so you already know that she's broken. And the thing is, you don't even need Ciaccona for her to clear endgame. She has pretty good free-to-play options too, but Ciaccona makes playing her a lot easier, and of course helps her do more damage. So if you test her and then you like her gameplay and her animations, then go for it.
You can join our Discord server. If you need help with anything in the game, you can ping the game helper role, and you won't ever miss free asteroid codes or events, or if you need help farming echoes.
If this video helped you, then you can help me by liking and subscribing, and yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and thank you so much for watching.